Is Canada housing crisis the biggest wealth killer in Canada? Well, even the generation wealth killer, right? So how so? I mean, it is obvious that back, a few decades ago, you only needed, 2-3 times your income and you will be able to purchase a house. Not a problem, right? Today, that number jumped 300 to 400%, right? So today, as we speak, we're talking about, times it by 12, 13, 14, 15. So how does this make a difference? Obviously, it is hard to find employment and a job that can secure these kinds of numbers, right? I mean, like, there are a lot of buyers, there are a lot of potential buyers, there are a lot of people that are willing to pay and to buy and to be owners, right? But unfortunately, it is hard to make these numbers work, right? So as an example, this house right here, it is valued somewhere around $2 million. In fact, to be exact, it sold for 1.9 and a quarter. So $1.9 million. Yeah, this is not your typical entry-level property, but purchasing this property, right, in an amazing location and all of that stuff, it will cost you 50% more than renting. On top of that, you would have to come up with a down payment of 20% to avoid the CMHC, which comes out to be like around $360,000, right? And the monthly payments on that property would be more than $10,000, right? Plus, considering $1,000 maintenance fees and considering the $13,000 annual taxes. Well, having said that, same identical property, you could rent for $6,000 a month, right? Which is 50% less. So if you translate it further, right? And your translation goes like this, right? So I will keep my money, like my deposit money in my pocket. I will save on average around $72,000, which in a decade translates more than $700,000, right? In my pocket. I don't have the stress of repairs. I don't have the stress of ownership, period. And I can keep my money. I can invest it. I can be free. I can move from one area to another. And I'm not at risk of these prices shifting. And that's what we are going through, right? Like, this is exactly what is happening right now, right? Like, every time a property sells obviously for less, I mean, there goes your equity, there goes your down payment, or there goes something that you have been building for a while, right? Like, the only reason how people understand that aspect is when the properties are rising. Then they get it. They're like, okay, so I bought it at X, right? Like, as an example, I bought it for $1 million and now my neighbor sold for 1.2. Well, guess what? I'm $200,000 wealthier, right? But for some reason, they don't seem to understand that these cycles can go the other way. So a house can be $1 million and it can sell for $800,000. And I have personally seen it, and there are hundreds, there are thousands of examples in Toronto and Toronto GTA all over the place, right? Some people don't want to acknowledge it. I get that, but that's the harsh truth, right? One of those examples is in Niagara Falls, right? Like, people were buying these beautiful detached homes for 1 million, 1.1 million, and all of that stuff, nicely built, great layouts and whatnot. And now they're selling them for, $700,000, $800,000. Same identical house, right? So basically they lost their down payment, right? And they're still riding these high mortgage costs, right? So, but the problem with the wealth is that folks or people that have been in the market for a long time and that they have purchased these properties in a long time, maybe even paid them off, and now they're in a position where they need to retire, their kids and their grandchildren and everyone else is basically depending on that particular wealth today. Like, that's the only way, and that will be dried because that's the only way this market will be able to move forward, because these kids cannot generate employment, as mentioned before, and they cannot generate enough money or income to sustain themselves, right? And that's the problem. Like I hear it all the time, right? Like, you know, clients talking to me and they're like, look, my parents are willing to gift me the down payment. I said, fine, they're willing to give you the down payment, but how does this look in their portfolio, right? They will give you $200,000 and $300,000, right? But that will eat directly in their savings. It will eat directly in their retirement fund and all of that stuff, right? So quickly, it becomes a vicious cycle, right? So it will be hard to stop that. Now, looking at the market as a whole, as a complete field, right? What does this look like? I mean, like, we don't have answers anymore. Like, I don't care whoever says what, but there are really no answers. Nobody can buy anything, and even the savings that you have might be good. Like you maybe you saved for a decade or 2 decades. Maybe you lived in your parents' basement, and you're bringing your $200,000 and $300,000 to the table. Well, how is it going to help you if your income today cannot sustain that mortgage, right? So that's that off balance. That's the situation that it's not healthy. So first-time buyers cannot move forward. Buyers that are depending on that wealth from their parents or grandparents are also in trouble, because even if they get that down payment, they will not be able to ride that mortgage, right? So for some reason, I mean, like I think we definitely hit the peak long time ago, right? We hit it in 2022, and it has been reported, and that has been declared March 2022 was the peak, and now it has been feathering slowly down. Whether some people want to admit it or not, it really doesn't matter. However, I'm also getting these viewers and comments on my channel, and that's fine. And they're like, listen, nothing is wrong. And then when we start to get deeper into their situation, they're like, listen, I purchased my property, you know, in 2002. I'm like, good for you, right? And you probably paid it off. Good for you. Like, I'm not saying anything, but your job, when I asked them directly, your job at that time could sustain that down payment, that could sustain that mortgage, it could sustain everything. And they're like, yes, you're right, right? But even today, if you're looking at government employment or jobs, or you're looking at the at like public transit or something that was very, very attractive back in the day, right? Like, I remember, 2 decades ago, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, right? Like, it was insane, right? You get a public transit job, driving a bus, a subway and stuff like that. Now you're dealing with these split shifts. I remember, right? And they're like, look, I don't care. I'll deal with it. I'll get my seniority. However, I can make $60,000 annually. I'm like, wow, $60,000. That's crazy, right? And then they're like, okay, so now the same job is maybe fetching $80,000. What are you going to do with $80,000? That's chump change. That's nothing. You cannot even get into a basic condo entry level 1 bedroom, right? Nothing, right? So like, even jobs like that most people were actually fighting for, and they were standing in line to get that job, it doesn't really matter. it doesn't matter because it's useless. Like you'll need to earn $250,000 in order to qualify. Like, people don't understand, right? Like, an average income is $65,000. Okay, in Toronto. An average home is more than $1 million. Even if you had the down payment and everything else, you have to qualify, right, with your earnings more than $200,000 in order to qualify to purchase that, right? So if you and your wife or spouse or partner is employed in public transit or similar, like government jobs that are paying around that price point, right? You guys are fetching $120,000, $130,000, right? So that's nothing. You cannot qualify really for anything. So I hope you gained something out of this video. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.